Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
Wow, I did not expect that today. I did not expect to see Joe Girardi canned by Dave Dombrowski. Now look, when you see how poor this team has played, when you witness the horrendous body language and the lack of fire from the manager, of course it's justifiable. Obviously, he wasn't doing a good enough job, so yes, he should have been fired. But today, after a win, heading into a series against the Angels, wow. Now there's some reports that this was Dave Dombrowski's decision and John Middleton clearly signed off on it, but maybe there was some speculation. Is John Middleton so frustrated? Because think about how much money he spent. He goes over the luxury tax. He's so pissed off because the team is not executing very well, and they look very poorly managed with the bullpen. Guys are unavailable. So did John Middleton put his foot down and force Dave Dombrowski to make a decision, knowing that Dave Dombrowski does not fire managers in season? And just a little bit ago, Dave Dombrowski openly discussed Joe Girardi's job and looked at the team, looked at the players, and did not put a lot of emphasis on the manager. So, was it the owner? Now, here's the thing. Just because something is being reported doesn't mean it's necessarily true. We know that Howie Roseman leaks information all the time. We know that Howie Roseman wants a certain narrative pushed. So because of that, is it possible that John Middleton, Dave Dombrowski, they want a certain message sent towards the public, and they want it to be looked at a certain way? So here's how we're going to label it for the fans and for the baseball world. I don't know, and quite frankly, it doesn't really matter to me because the end result is what I deeply needed. Let's be realistic, though. This is a sign of desperation. You do this because you have no other options, and your team is that awful, right? I'm looking at the offense, and I don't like a lot of what I see. Now, I'm getting into a bunch of debates on social media at this very moment because, well, statistically, when you look at all of their runs scored and how that matches up with other teams in the league, yeah, but that's a flawed statistic because you could score 9 runs in a win. You could score 7 runs in a win and then go 0 runs the next night or score 1 run. If you're satisfied with this offense, shame on you. And the reason why this is coming up is because I made it very clear that, sure, the manager change should be exciting. Because we know if you continue to go down this path, it would continue to be bad baseball because he had bad body language. He was not firing up the troops. He got mad at that Rhys Hoskins play. Not at Rhys Hoskins. Rhys Hoskins slid into second base. Horrendous umpiring. Said that he, just a slide into second base nowadays. It was problematic. Whatever. He was pissed, and that's very rare compared to how many times we wanted to see fight out of Joe Girardi to try and inspire the team and inspire the group. It never really happened this year the way that we would like to. So Joe Girardi being on the move is something that is great, but it's not going to matter unless this team does what it was supposed to do, and that's rake. Now, the fire back is, what do you mean, Broads? Castellanos hits a homer, Bryce Harper hits home runs, and of course your bullpen blows it away. Well, yeah, there's other issues too. Your bullpen is allowing runs to be scored. Knebel comes in the game, and within one pitch, it's over the wall. These are all problems, too. They're underachieving in 3 areas of the game. And in all 3 areas of the game that matter so damn much, which is really all phases of the game, but they're underachieving in their bullpen, they're underachieving in their defense, and they're underachieving in their offense. If they did clean up the bullpen, whether it's utilizing Sir Anthony Dominguez differently, and who knows, maybe Rob Thompson, what it's going to be. When Rob steps in, you're going to be in here, and you are going to hopefully start analyzing some of these differences within the bullpen. Is it the same? And if it is the same, the 3-day rule, well, it's more on the way that management wants to handle things from the top down with all the numbers compared to maybe looking in a new direction, which we would all love to do. But getting back to it. If your bullpen does get cleaned up a bit and a couple more saves happen, if this is the offense that continues to happen, not producing with scores and running position as much as you would like, Odubel Herrera grounding out into a double play with the bases loaded, still scores a run, but tacking on 5 runs instead of just 1 run in that situation, or 3 runs, it clears the bases with a double, things of that nature. If that happened, that's what I need more. I can't have Kyle Schwarber hitting sub 200. I can't have Nick Castellanos going through the poor stretch that he went through. Now he's crawling through it. Rhys Hoskins has really been invisible all year long. JT Realmuto has sucked for a long period of time. These issues are true, and those are my biggest problem. Yeah, I mean, the defense is bad. We knew it was going to be bad. The bullpen hasn't been fixed. We knew that was going to happen. If it's a 5-run lead in the 9th instead of a 2-run lead in the 9th, how much does that change things? My eyes are on the offense really grooving. Now, everyone's not going to be just perfect all at the same time, where Schwarber's the hottest, Castellanos is the hottest, Harper's the hottest, Rhys is the hottest, JT's the hottest, where they're the purest form of one another, or the purest form of themselves when the new manager comes in. 3 guys are going to be hot. A couple guys are going to just be average. 1 guy might be cold. That's the nature of the beast, and that's the nature of the business. But I don't know how you could possibly be satisfied with the offense and strictly look at the bullpen and the defense as the major problems here. I mean, it's collectively all 3. I think that's very fair. You're giving away outs. You're forcing starting pitchers to have to pitch more because, well, Alec Boehm has an error, or Castellanos, the ball is flying over his head, or Odubel Herrera and Kyle Schwarber are running into one another at the left center field wall, or Rhys Hoskins is throwing the ball to Camargo at second. His foot comes off the bag. He's throwing it to JT Realmuto. The ball's getting behind him, and now it becomes a mess. Nick Castellanos isn't going to hit a cutoff man, and that's an issue, and that's a problem. These type of things are serious. So there's a lot of problems here, and that's why with the new manager, while it needed to happen, and you're trying to create some sort of buzz and some sort of spark, unless those details are fixed, and quite frankly, I don't know if that's going to happen, we'll probably continue to see bad baseball. There normally is a sense of urgency and adrenaline rush when that's the case, so I wouldn't be surprised if they win a game, win a series, win a few in a row, but how sustainable is it? Can it continue to happen? Can they win a bunch of games? Can they turn the tide here and go on a little bit of a run to spark some noise just because you have a new manager in place? In terms of the long term of it all, it is what it is. I don't have answers for you right now. I'm trying to figure out what they're going to do over the next couple of months to get themselves going here, to get themselves going here a little bit and seeing if anything can happen. Long-term, young guy, old guy, fired, no fire, more of a lackadaisical guy, more of a guy that kind of shoots the shit with you, if you will, and hangs out and gives you, some smacks on the tush, whatever guy they go for in terms of personality down the road. We'll see how it all shapes up. But right now, I'm looking at a team that is not performing up to the expectations that we demand. So how are they going to get themselves out of that funk? With their current roster construction, it has to be hitting the ball more. Overall roster analyzation, of course, if they had a better bullpen, of course, if they had better defense, but I'm looking at it with the mindset of this is who they are this season. This is what they built. And they had to build this way because of where Andy McPhail left them, because of where Matt Klentak left them, because they don't have many prospects. So that's why Dave Dombrowski made the moves that he made. But I saw this tweet, and I think it's perfectly labeled by John Heyman, of all people. When the Phillies hired Girardi, the runners-up for the job were Buck Showalter and Dusty Baker, who are both thriving as managers elsewhere. Not surprising, Girardi was ownership's choice considering his past record, but I've heard Dusty was the one who blew folks away in interviews. And, I mean, Joe Girardi, we did hear noise from the Yankees fans about things, and apparently my title is, I'm doing this live, of course, my title is spelled wrong. How did I spell Girardi? Did I spell it the wrong way? I'm typing in full caps, and I'm getting all upset about things. Yeah, okay, I mixed up the D and the I. It's not that big of a deal, but I appreciate you guys letting me know. We were informed by Yankees fans that it's not going to work out well. It's not going to happen. It's probably going to be an issue at some point. And okay, so they end up being right. At the same time, when you're going from Gabe Kapler, who was not experienced, where people were smashing television screens in the dugout, where Bryce Harper was laughing because the curveball machine, Gabe Kapler wasn't ready at that time, and it looks like he utilized that to become a better manager in San Francisco. Both can be true, where just because Gabe Kapler didn't work here and Joe is now working here, it doesn't mean it was the wrong move to look in a different managerial spot here. Gabe Kapler didn't work here. Joe Girardi didn't work here. Both didn't work here. That's okay to say. Just because someone else is having success in another area, just like with Joe. Joe did have success with a really good and talented team in New York. It worked there when he was winning and he had the guys to push the right button. It didn't work here. That is okay to say. So I don't like looking back at Gabe and now automatically assuming that it was wrong or it was too premature. I don't think it was. You're a superstar, the guy who ends up carrying this team and is the NL MVP last year, was mocking the manager and laughing publicly because of the things that he said. He wasn't ready. It wasn't a fit. It is a fit in San Francisco, and he seems to be more polished there. It's a better, well-ran organization. I'm not going to run away from the fact that, okay, there is systemic problems here, and maybe Dave Dombrowski making some other decisions within this coaching staff and moving on from some others is sort of the storyline and sort of those moves to let you know that and informing you too where, hey, it's not just Joe, but we're looking internally within some other positions too, and they're out the door as well. I trust Dave Dombrowski's mind. I trust his philosophy. I trust his thought process, and he's been around the game building a lot of winners in the past. He did inherit a weird and wild scenario. He did inherit a franchise that is accustomed to not making the playoffs and hasn't been there in quite some time, and a lot of devastating play as of late, and that is real, and it's not an easy fix, and there's a lot of turmoil throughout a lot of stages and a lot of corners within this franchise, and he's trying to clean it up as smoothly as possible. And the realistic thing is we don't care about any of that except for what we see with our eyeballs, which is the major league team winning, and is the ball club at the top producing the way that we would like them to? And the answer is clearly no. So what do you do when that's the case? Whether it's fair or unfair, whether it's the talent or the manager, you have to make a move. And with Joe, I always like the pie chart. The pie chart for a manager, for me, is 10 to 15%. That's what I look at value-wise to a ball club. While the players are in that 80% range, 85% range, you can look at the GM in this current spot, this current regime on where they're at right now at about a 5%. You had your deficiencies. You have no prospects. You were poor with your drafting. So let's go attack some bombers and bring in some free agents that can hit moonshots and score you a lot of runs. I got no problem with the idea behind it when you look at where he was when he was put in place to make those moves. Now, with that said, if I say 5% Dombrowski, 10% or so of the manager, and then the rest of the way is completely on the players, if 10% is what I demand out of Joe, and he's giving me 6% of that 10%, I have an issue. And I think that's where we were basically at. So I'm fascinated to see what Rob does with these moves. And I saw it all over with the iPhone and with the autocorrect when you think of his last name and how many times you're going to have an issue spelling it, the P, the no P. It's going to be a mess when you're out there writing your blogs. If you're a reporter, if you got yourself your own little blog, you're typing things out on Twitter, trying to tweet out what you think about the manager. It's going to be a frustrating time for that little X to pop up on your iPhone to tap it and get it the way that you want it to. But look, all around, I'm happy they did this. Surprised they did it at the time that they did it. I did not expect to see that today. I was running around some errands. I had some things I had to do. I have a wedding tomorrow, so I'm looking around trying to get some things done. And with a blink of an eye, I'm looking down at my phone and I'm listening to the Fanatic, and bang, here's the breaking news sounder that Joe is canned after a victory. And I just didn't think that Dave Dombrowski was going to do it. I heard Jason Stark say that there was no indication that it was going to happen. I heard Dave speak a little bit ago mentioning it's more on the players than anything else. Now, Joe did speak today, and Joe said, we gave away too many extra outs. That probably costed us 4 or 5 games, maybe even more. I think at times our bullpen struggled. We had some guys that I think have much better stuff and potential than they've pitched, and some guys off to slow starts offensively, and that happens. I think you can overcome one thing, maybe two, but sometimes when it's more than that, it's somewhat difficult. I can look back on this last week where we went 3-7. I think realistically we could have been 7-3, and that's going to fall on me because we weren't 7-3, and I understand that. I just pray that they get better and that they get into the playoffs. Well, I hope so too, Joe. I wrote down some numbers. JT Realmuto on May 22nd was hitting 224, as low as 224. Nick Castellanos at one point was hitting 300. Of course, that would dip a bit to 290, 280, and that's fair. It was down to 248. Kyle Schwarber, 181 on May 29th. Rhys Hoskins, 189 on May 8th. Now it's up to 222, but clearly not enough all around from your offensive production. I stand by what I say, which is absolutely if you clean up the defense, you're going to win more games. If you do a better job with Knebel or if Sir Anthony Dominguez's usage is cleaner and things of that nature, it just makes more sense with, well, no, we can't do 3 days in a row. Oh, what's that, Familia? Oh, my God, we're going to utilize everyone in the bullpen to warm up. Connor Brogdon's warming up twice in one game. All of the crap that we had to deal with the poor usage of the pen. And if Knebel didn't get shelled and one pitch swinging home runs are allowed and these 2-run leads are being lost or these 1-run leads are being lost, you tie the game and then somehow you push it to extras. But then when extras come along, one hit in the gap, crushed, off the wall, runs are being scored, bases are loaded, more damage is done. Of course, if those details are sharpened and it's not as ugly there, you'll have a better record. But those numbers I just gave you, out of your players that you expected big numbers from, and once again, I'm not expecting all of them at once to just be hitting 300. Now you have Gene Segura out. I don't know where Bryce Harper is with this elbow and the soreness and all that. Dave Dombrowski is going to be speaking in about 10 minutes. I can't wait to hear what he has to say. But if these areas are better, and maybe you have a 5-run lead in the 9th instead of a 2 or a 1. And I've seen them blow 5-run lead. I've seen them blow 7-1 lead. I've seen them blow any situation possible. But if they were to perform better with runners on scoring position, if you score all your runs for the total run argument in one game where you win 9-2, and then it's followed up by 1 run, 0 runs, 2 runs, 1 run, 0 runs. I just don't know how you can somehow pretend like the offense, well, they have extra base hits, and if you look at how hard, I gotcha, but it's misleading. It's not telling you the full story. I've watched this team day by day. I watched this team game by game. I've watched this team plate appearance by plate appearance. They have problems all around their roster, all around their team, all of it. I demand more from their hitting. And I truly believe if their hitting does better, while their defense is definitely going to cause problems, but it all stems from that because that's how they are built. That's how they are built. If they were built to dominate with pitching, and their hitting was absolutely scoring a bunch of runs, and their pitching stunk, and then I'd say, until their pitching gets better, I won't feel good about them. Until their hitting gets better from the guys that I demand more from, I'm not going to feel better about it because that's how this team was structured. 856-442-9805. Yes, I am going to be taking phone calls. First, guys, we have a new partner here, and it's one that we've been wanting for a long time now. Freestone Farm CBD. It's my favorite CBD brand because they farm it themselves with all organic inputs, and they offer only the highest quality genetics in their strains and extracts. I've tried a lot of different brands, but honestly, Freestone Farm CBD has been amazing for me. I personally like using it after working out to help them with regular post-workout feel, and I also like it before bed as I personally been sleeping better at night. Listen to this. Their tasting Bayox, tropical tasting Bayox, clocks in at 24.1% CBD. You can use promo code BROADS for 20% off at checkout at Freestone Farm CBD. The link is down below in the description. All right, here we go. 856-442-9805. For the people asking in the chat right now about calling in, there are open lines. If there are not any open lines, it will go straight to voicemail, so you just have to keep calling until I start taking calls and people get off the board. So here we go. We're going to take our first call. Good afternoon. You are on the air.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello.
Sorry, I'm in class right now.
Yeah, it ain't going to work. I'm sorry. You can't whisper and think that you're going to be able to make it. So, unfortunately, that is not going to pan out. I need some life in this clubhouse. I need some dog in this clubhouse. Now, I want them to be relaxed, too, though. There was too much pressure. There was too much holding the bat. There was too much of that involved here, where I think they're pressing, they're overdoing it, they're at the plate, there's so much going on in their head, and they're trying to destroy it every single pitch, and they're overthinking the process when they're in the batter's box. So I want it to be loose. I want it to be more calm. I want it to be a presence where it's more entertaining, just have fun out there. At the same time, though, I need fire, and I think both can be true. You just have to find that within, and this is the first domino that has to affect to change that culture, and we'll see how Rob seems to handle things. Let's go to Mike. What's happening, Mike?
Yo, bro. Yeah, not a good day for Phillies baseball.
It is and it's not, right? This is the step in the right direction, but of course, I don't want to be here at all.
It is. I grew up with the '08 team. I know the whole process. This kind of reminds me about the Flyers. I know I'm going off topic, but this Phillies team reminds me of the Flyers a few years back. They're kind of lost at the moment. That's all I got to say.
No, you're absolutely right, Mike. Thanks for calling in. They are lost. It's can they get themselves back on track? Is there something that could move the needle enough? And is it as easy as one guy getting going and then another guy gets going? Castellanos is warming up. Schwarber seems to be finding the long ball again. And he does start out slow. He is a player who will have a slower start to the season, April, May. And then as the summer starts warming up, the weather gets a bit nicer, bang, here we go. We're starting to see a lot of home runs. We're starting to see a lot of trotting around second base, third base, him and Dusty Wathan having some high fives as he's going around the home plate. All of that is real. Can JT string together a series or two? And then when there's a groove, where there's a comfortability, where there's a swagger, they go into a night now thinking they're going to lose. And is it because if they gain the lead, they automatically think they're going to lose the lead? I'm sure there's something to that where there's no faith, but you have to build that faith by accomplishing your goal and winning a few in a row. And maybe a struggling Los Angeles Angels team is enough for that confidence to switch. I just don't know if it's sustainable. I've been in a locker room where the head coach got fired. You bring in a new one. Practice is a little bit different. Now, I'm speaking in terms of hockey, so it's not as if it's the same approach in a Major League Baseball season over 162. But Bob Wanko of Crossing Broad, I'm trying to pull up his tweets here so I can see what he was referencing earlier about the Angels, because I know that they are having themselves an awful, awful, awful time as of late. Let's see here. The Angels are in an 8-game losing streak in which they've been outscored by 51-26. Ain't good. So if there's any time, the time should be now. If there was a moment, the moment should be now. I mentioned this on the latest pod. If they're going to get back on track to get to 86 wins, to find a wild card spot, the pace to do that winning percentage-wise, if you keep digging yourself into a hole and you keep losing, now the 580 win percentage, the 590, the 570, it becomes 610, it becomes 620, it becomes 600. Excuse me, that's going to be impossible. That's going to hit a line and it's going to hit a mark where you will be screwed. So you cannot do it much longer. It's go mode. It's foot on the gas. And that's why Dave Dombrowski elected to do this today. Whether it works or not, I don't know. More times than not, it probably doesn't because the players are the reason why you're losing. But it's worth a shot because sticking with the status quo was going to continue to drive this fan base into the ground. Let's go to Jimmy. What's going on, Jimmy?
What's up, Broads? Man, I'm right with you. Like, I was not expecting this to happen today, but on Wednesday, I work at the ballpark and I work in the tennis level. You know who I saw up there yesterday? John Middleton himself. He was out there talking with one of our supervisors, and he didn't seem to be in a bad mood or anything, but I swear to God, I heard the word unacceptable come out of his mouth multiple times. So the idea that this was his decision actually has a bit of credence to it. And I swear to God, that is exactly what happened.
So we have our sources inside Citizens Bank Park lip reading John Middleton and breaking the news right here on the show. Do I have this correct?
I mean, it's a possibility that, I mean, how could you, like, you're John Middleton. Okay, if you're John Middleton, you're spending money. You're doing what a lot of owners in professional baseball, a lot of owners, period, would not do. You're actually spending money and investing in this team, and that's all you can really ask for an owner. And what this team has done, what Dave Dombrowski has done, and what's spending his money is he's got nothing in return.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, what he's got is the same exact frustration that this fan base has had for a long time. When was the last time we've seen a damn playoff game? It's totally unacceptable. So, of course, John Middleton labeling those, even if it's a Dave Dombrowski decision, we've heard that John Middleton signed off on it. And like I said earlier, honestly, to start the show, it doesn't really matter to me who made the call, if Dave didn't want to, if John wanted to, if John didn't want to, and Dave wanted to. They both wanted to, which is probably realistically the case. Any baseball fan, any baseball mind can see what was happening on that field and justify moving on from the manager, no matter what his name is, no matter what his pedigree is, no matter if he won a championship before in the past or not. And I just can't stand the argument that he can only win with talent. Look at the teams who win championships. The teams who have won championships win, and they have talent. I don't know what team we sit back, put our feet up, watch as sports fans, and when it's all said and done, we look at their team and go, you know why they won? Their team isn't good. They don't have a lot of talent. They really have bad players, but the way that team was managed just took them over the top. Though they might have phenomenal talent and manage very well. And that's a combination that does result in championships. So that can absolutely happen. But I don't know where you go. That team underachieved. Those players were bad. They were so trash. They stunk. They were pathetic. But their manager just willed them to a World Series championship. It just doesn't happen. It's not real, right? I mean, that's not a bar that could ever be reached with real logic. So of course teams that win when their teams are exploding and their defense is good. Their bullpen is good. Their starting pitching is good. That's normally what happens. Then, of course, by default, you're excited and happy with what your manager provides because the guys execute in that moment. I've even labeled it with Joe. There's plenty of times where I don't have a problem with this decision. My problem is what happened with the player in that moment. They failed. They didn't shine. There's been too many times, though, where I have been furious with the decision. And too many times, quite frankly, this year, that has been the case. So am I stunned that we're sitting here today on June 3rd talking about a firing of Joe Girardi? Oh, no doubt about it. I did not expect it playing out this way. Neither did Jim Salisbury. Neither did Todd Zalecki. Neither did me. Neither did you. Neither did a lot of the fans in the baseball world outside of the Philadelphia Phillies. I'm surprised that he looked this lifeless as a manager, so monotone. And I don't know where the players were with him. Was it as bad as we feel that is? Probably not. Probably not. Because there's a difference nowadays in sports than back in the day. Back in the day, you played for your teammates more. You played for your manager. And teams do that. The Houston Astros did that. They cheated and all. But, yeah, they had a brotherly bond. And the Yankees right now seem to have a brotherly bond. There are teams that fight for one another. Back in the day, the Phillies team, but of course, back in the day, 08, 09, teams play more together. The reason I'm bringing this up is professional sports nowadays, it's more individualized. I want to get my money. I'm holding out. I want the $280 million contract. I want the $310 million contract. I want that. It's more about me than it is us. And that's not just a Phillies thing or anything. It's sports. You see it in football. You see it in baseball. You see it in hockey. Mitch Marner holding out with the Toronto Maple Leafs. I want to get my cash. That's how it is. So in terms of the manager, well, you know, you got to be this collective group and this and that. I just don't know if it holds the same weight as it once did. Now, there's still something to it, and you have to find that perfect mold, and there is a fit to it where you got to play the line. But in terms of relating it to, well, the team, and they create a personality based off of this guy, maybe back in the day more than they do now. It doesn't mean they don't at all. I just don't think it's to the same level. That's all. All right, back to the phones. Hello. Thank you for calling in. How are you today?
How you doing, bros?
I'm hanging in there. What's happening?
Oh, that's good. I'm just wondering what you think that the clubhouse needs, or who you think that we can go for next as a manager.
Well, for this year, I don't really have my mindset on what's happening after next. I'm trying to salvage this thing. So what does this team need? I think it starts with their hitting really getting go. Castellano, we talk about energy all the time, right? And the way that this team was built was their offense was going to will you to wins, and they would make up for all their mistakes, and their defense is going to be horrible. There's going to be errors. There's going to be sloppy play. But if their offense clicks and it rolls and it puts balls into the gap and you're hitting balls over the wall, you know, there would be a personality to this team, and we applied that to the offense. So I really feel deep down that, okay, you got Joe out of here, you bring in some new life, and maybe that internally sparks just a little bit of buzz. Once your offense starts to do what we all envisioned it doing, then there would be a domino effect within the rest of the team, whether it's, you know, your starting pitching, who's been fine, and they've done a fine job, but that's where it begins. That's where the mojo starts. So once that happens, I think the rest falls into place. Even with the sloppier bullpen, and I get it, Familia stinks, and some of these guys stink. I don't think Knebel stinks. I don't think Seranthony Dominguez stinks. I feel that they could be fine over the rest of the season as long as, you know, Knebel gets out of this run. But it all stems from the guys that we talked about creating this personality. We need them to create it, and then hopefully the rest falls into place. That's what I think needs to happen.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, thank you. Hey, bro, you're right. That sounds nice. You know, you don't get that as much as you would like. You know? You get Broads, you're dumb. Broads, you're an idiot. Broads, this, Broads, that. All right, Dave Dombrowski. I'm ready to read some quotes from Dave Dombrowski. It's something I've been thinking about because I really haven't thought the club has been playing as well as we're capable of. I woke up, went for a jog, came back, and thought that this was the right thing to do. How about Dombrowski just going for a casual run around the block? Did he go Apple Watch? Did he monitor his heart rate? Did he have a cup of Joe before? Did he make a protein shake? We need the follow-up questions. We need the hard-hitting stuff. We need to get a little bit more out of this, huh? We need to keep our eyes on some of this for sure because I trust Dave. I do. I trust Dave Dombrowski a lot. I think he is sharp. I think he knows the game. And we talk about, okay, in Major League Baseball nowadays, is it more about what the manager wants to do, or is he being informed to make certain decisions? And I think it's a little bit of both with the most recent regime before Joe just got fired. Because when Nick Castellanos was brought in here, they were sitting there at the press conference. Ironically enough, we're talking about a press conference now. It's just not the one that I thought we'd be having this early in the season. But I digress. He looked over at Joe and said, when Nick Castellanos made a joke about hitting in the lineup, and he goes, well, that's for Joe. Joe's going to make the lineup every day. So some organizations get handed the lineup card. Matt Klentak, Gabe Kapler. I think Gabe was just handed things. Is Joe just handed things? Does he have more flexibility? Is he informed this is what's best, but you have the freedom to move your sixth hitter, seventh hitter, first hitter, second hitter? You can get creative with it, but this is what we advised with the analytical department. And what's going to happen now? I think Joe had more flexibility than a lot of other franchises, a lot of other organizations. And that's one big study that I'm going to be really, really looking at. Bullpen usage, the lineup card. How does Rob change little details? And what does that mean for the results? Does it change the results? Is it the same? If we see these 3-day rule effects still happening, well, then do we take away frustration towards Joe? Do we now start looking deeper internally at other decision makers within this organization? We have a lot of answers, a lot of answers, or a lot of questions, I should say, that we need answers. We're going to turn this around. I think we have the capability to do it. I think we needed a different voice in that clubhouse. Not groundbreaking stuff by any means. These are all things that we just assumed we'd be getting. A lot of player speak. Dave Dombrowski said, or a lot of coach speak, player speak, GM speak. Dave Dombrowski said he did not consult with the players or coaches prior to making this decision. Did speak to the front office folks and John Middleton. It was his decision alone. I don't know if I fully buy that, and I don't care. I don't care. But I could get behind it. I wouldn't be stunned if Dave said, you know what, I think it's time. Let me talk to John. And John goes, yeah, I could get behind that. I see that logic. I got nothing against that, and I could see that being the case. I could see it being John telling Dave, and Dave just making it seem that he was more involved and being more of the decision maker because John's the one spending all the money. But it doesn't matter because it's the right decision. If the right decision is getting made, well, then that's all I can live with as a fan of this team. With that, we're going to shut things down here now. I know he's still talking, but I don't really think anything groundbreaking is going to be said. And if it is said, we will cover that in a future pod here because, yes, a lot of Phillies talk is still in front of our eyes, and there's a big series coming up against the Angels this week. And I want to thank everybody so much for hanging out with me today. If you are new to the channel, hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up button as well. I greatly appreciate it. If you're looking to buy tickets, SeatGeek, promo code BROADS, $20 off. Get yourself to a game today. And then social media at Broads Media, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter as well. Thank you guys so much.